Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. The Oxford Village Council gets a new member, and someone is growing more than flowers in Addison Township, and vandals destroyed Oxford High School property. Please help us find the culprits.
Stay tuned. Learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. The Oxford Village Council has a new councilman, and his name is Eric Dolan. A 5-year resident of Oxford Lakes, Dolan was chosen from among 3 other qualifying candidates by a majority vote to fill the seat left vacant when former Councilman Brian Cloutier moved out of the village. Cloutier endorsed the council's selection.
I want to congratulate the newest member of council and my former council people for making that decision. Thank you for making, I think, a very solid decision for the future of this community. You have a lot of very important issues ahead of you, budgetarily and other. And I think that based on what I heard in the interviewing process yesterday, that you made a very sound decision there. So congratulations to that, and I wish you the best.
Dolan will fill the seat as an appointee until the November election, at which time Cloutier's term would end. But Dolan stated that he has already filed a petition to run in November for the seat. Dolan is an Army veteran and a 30-year police officer, currently at Oak Park with plans to retire soon. Dolan said he believes the number one concern for the future of the village is fiscal responsibility and to achieve financial stability for the village. Dolan told interviewing council members he would share his energies and know-how by working with them towards that goal.
The Village Council seems to have their hands full on finalizing the long overdue village sign ordinance, and the issue of LED signs is no exception. Fire Chief Pete Scholl spoke in favor of the use of LED digital messaging signs for the purpose of promoting events in the village.
We've been talking for the last few years of trying to get a sign put up in front of the fire hall because we have no sign at all right now. We were hoping to be able to put an electronic sign on it to be used for public address most of the season year-round. We're constantly getting people that want to come up and put banners in their front yard because there's no place to put them. Either that or they don't want to put them on the bridge, and that was one thing where for as far as community events, to be able to put it on this sign as people are coming and going into town for the fireworks, for the women's expo, for the women's downtown thing, all those kinds of things, Easter egg drop, whatever. We're constantly getting requests to put a banner up in the front yard, whereas I would rather have that put on an LED sign for the community to be able to see it. This gives us something to, remind people to change their smoke detector batteries during the season when it's too windy out, to be able to put on there no burning today because of high winds and that sort of thing.
Oxford United Methodist Church member Tony Rizzo questioned the inequity in banning such signs when a precedent has already been set by Oxford Bank and the Genesis Center.
We're contemplating a new sign, and we did the research, and we kind of wanted a digital sign. If we can't have one, I understand that. But if everybody's opposed to a digital sign, why do we have 2 of them already? It's not fair. We're trying to do things right, and you've already got 2. Now, it's easy for you guys to say no more, but you already did it.
Village Attorney Bob Davis recommended passing a sign ordinance before any more decisions are made.
Some of the things that you're trying to blend in with this concept might run afoul of the Supreme Court rulings on content control or color control by way of content control. It might be wiser. I think you really need to get your sign ordinance done. Okay, so it might be wiser to bring those issues back, if necessary, as amendments to your sign ordinance after they're studied a little closer for compliance with the rulings that the highest courts have put down on content control. But I do think you need to move your sign ordinance forward. Guys.
Councilmember Helmuth motioned to approve a new sign ordinance amendment with exceptions.
22-year-old Oxford resident Amber Podobny was killed while driving onto the M59 ramp at Squirrel Road this week. Police reports state that Podobny hit a tree after careening off the ramp. She was transported to a local hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. While weather conditions were snowy that day, the accident remains under investigation.
A burglar alarm set off by an Addison Township home resulted in the arrest of a 41-year-old Curtis Road resident for having a large marijuana growing operation. When officers checked out the alarm, they found the door wide open and the alarm blasting in the background. When they entered the home, they found that a large quantity of both plants and preserved pot in canning jars. While the resident claimed to be a medical marijuana card holder, the amount found in the home exceeds the Michigan legal limit. The resident was arrested and the case has been turned over to the Narcotics Enforcement Team for investigation.
Robert Vaughn Lenz, a 25-year-old man from Oxford, Michigan, was recently arrested for committing multiple burglaries in Oakland County. If convicted, Lenz could serve 15 years in prison. Unknown to Lenz, he was already under surveillance due to a tip to police about his involvement in other robberies. Police observed the suspect removing work tools from a home on Lake Orion and stopped his vehicle on Drainer Road, where officers found the stolen tools in the back seat of his car. The thief told officers he stole the items to support his drug dependency.
Vandals destroyed the Oxford High School football press box this week, and police are reviewing surveillance tapes to identify the thrashers. The scene looked like something from a bad movie, with windows busted, profanity written on doors, holes punched in walls, black paint sprayed randomly, empty paint and beer cans scattered all around. The facility and wires were cut to the cameras and audio equipment. Police believe the vandals entered the facility through an access door in the roof. Fingerprints were lifted and are being registered and processed. If anyone has any information on who participated in this destruction, please contact the Oakland County Sheriff Department.
Sheriff's deputies were called by security personnel at the North Lapeer Road Meijer store on a charge that 3 black males used cloned or stolen credit cards to purchase products. Officers found the subjects sitting in a black auto in the store's parking lot. With the police computer search, officers found one of the male suspects with 3 outstanding warrants for arrest. He was arrested, handcuffed, and taken to the Oakland County Jail for review of charges. The other 2 were released but continue to remain under investigation. Will they ever learn?
Well, you know, they're stealing from Myers on somebody else's credit card. Why would they just sit around in the parking lot waiting to get arrested? I'm glad they did, but I'm telling you, what is it with people that just don't think about their actions? I don't get it.
I think the criminals need to reconsider too if they're going to steal from Myers, because we do a lot of reports where they're caught all the time.
I know it. Boy, I'm telling you what, I don't think I'd want to eat a grape without paying for it there. But I'm so disappointed in what happened at the press box at the high school.
Oh.
You know, that's our taxpayer dollars. That's whoever kids did that, that's their parents' money that they just scattered all over the place. I'm really disappointed in
And that's $1,000 in damage at least.
Oh my gosh, I know.
It's foolishness.
And not to mention the time and repairs and everything else that's going to have to happen. And it was a mess the other night when we were up in that press box trying to shoot.
I understand they did cut the wires to the security cameras, but officers were able to retrieve, I think, images prior to the cut. And plus, they have fingerprints too, which
what were those kids
eventually you're going to get caught.
I know it.
I think the best thing to do for them is turn themselves in. You know, take a lesser whack.
Take a hit while they can. Yeah. Speaking of cleanup, they have to clean up all that mess. How's your spring cleanup going?
Well, my wife has honeydews in line for this weekend. You're going to do the lawn and all these kind of things and get it ready, you know, from the winter.
Yeah.
Although here in Michigan, you got to be careful. We could do this. It could snow next week.
I know. You know, my neighbor has a jet ski across the canal from us, and he had that jet ski out on the lake about 3-4 weeks ago, and now it's been all packed up and there was snow on it and everything else, so it made me hesitate a little bit. Do I really want to start on that yard? But I am anxious to get my kayak out anyhow.
Yeah, well, he's kind of hardy, kind of like the golfers. I go by golf course, you know, and when it just finished snowing and they're out there.
They're shooting around those snowbanks, I know.
Trying to find the greens, you know, around the snow.
The good season's so short in Michigan that we have to push it a little bit. But that's it for Oxford News this week. If you want to learn more about these stories and others, stop by your local store and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, watch us right here at Charter Channel 191 or AT&T channel, sorry about that, 99, and enjoy your spring cleanup.
And coming up next, Oxford Sports with James Hughes, and catch Oxford School News with John Ochins. And don't miss the talk with, Auto Talk with Dave Kenny and Science in the News.
I'm Terry Stiles, and this is Oxford News This Week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, why? Know why? Modern humans diverged from Neanderthals some 600,000 years ago, and it seems the sex-determining Y chromosome passed from fathers to sons might be what kept the two species apart. Fernando Mendez at Stanford University and his colleagues compared the Neanderthal Y chromosome with that of chimps and different modern humans. They found that modern humans are missing genes from the Neanderthal Y, even though the rest of our genome is peppered with their genes due to past interbreeding. They found that mutations in 4 genes might have prevented the passage of Y chromosome down the paternal line to hybrid children. For example, a mutation in KDM5D, a gene that plays a role in cancer suppression, has previously been linked to increased risk of miscarriages as it can prompt an immune response in pregnant mothers. Some of these mutations could have played a role in the loss of Neanderthal Y chromosomes in human populations, says Mendez. Wow. Get your geography books out. London is calling. The planet's North Pole mysteriously changed direction of its travel in 2000, turning eastwards towards the Greenwich Meridian. Now it seems that this change in direction is down to the redistribution of water on land as well as the melting polar ice. The Earth's rotational axis, and with it the location of the physical North Pole, was traveling at a rate of about 10 centimeters a year over the last century towards Canada's Hudson Bay, along a line of longitude that runs through Toronto and Panama City. The movement was down to the redistribution of the Earth's mass as the crust has slowly rebounded after the end, of the last ice age. But since 2000, it has made a dramatic 75-degree eastward shift, heading towards the Greenwich Meridian. Some evidence suggested that the shrinking of ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica caused by climate change was behind the surprise shift. Now, a study says this change is also influenced by the changing distribution of water on land. This is the first time we have solid evidence that changes in land-water distribution on a global scale also shift which direction the axis moves to, says researcher Surendra Adhikari of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. For example, Adhikari says the Indian subcontinent and the Caspian Sea are losing a massive amount of water, pulling the axis eastward. The study used data from NASA's GRACE satellites to investigate how the distribution of water mass was related to the direction of Earth's axis movement between 2002 and 2015. The results also shed light on another long-standing puzzle, why the axis oscillates every few years. This oscillation is also down to changes in water mass around the planet, says Adhikari. The precise knowledge of polar motion and Earth rotation in general is indispensable for many applications, says Florian Seitz of the German Geodetic Research Institute in Munich. This includes GPS navigation systems and the positioning of satellites. The finding could also help us study climate change, he says. Because we have an accurate record, that is, of the axis movement since 1899, we may now be able to use that data to map out past changes in the distribution of land water more precisely. This, in conjunction with factors in where the axis is heading, could help us make climate models more accurate. And in space, let the little guys shine. The SETI, or Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, is setting its sights on the Lilliputians of the galaxy, red dwarf stars, in the hope that someone is home. Over the next 2 years, the Institute will turn the 42-antenna Allen Telescope Array towards 20,000 red dwarf stars to listen for alien radio signals. Red dwarfs were never considered very interesting for SETI in the past, says Seth Shostak of the SETI Institute. That's because our sun isn't one, plus they tend to be more active than sun-like stars, shooting out flares that could fry planets. But they make up 75% of stars in the Milky Way. Based on population statistics of planets we've found in the past few years, the nearest red dwarf with a rocky, life-friendly planet could be as close as 6.5 light years away. Those stars also live billions of years longer than sun-like stars on the average, and that gives potential inhabitants a long time to grow up and perhaps grow smart. With these developments in astronomy, It seems like red dwarfs are a good candidate, Shostak says. They haven't been given their 15 minutes of fame. The new survey will pick targets from a list of about 70,000 red dwarfs compiled by Andrew West of Boston University, and will listen to the stars and radio frequency bands between 1 and 10 gigahertz. Good luck with that. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
I'm John Ochins, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcats School Update. It was a big day for the Oxford Learning Center this week. Representatives from Oxford Schools, Oakland County, and the Oxford Chamber of Commerce gathered for the official ribbon cutting of their new playgrounds. I sat down with our early learning coordinator, Washia Jackson, to get her thoughts on this.
I think having a wonderful outdoor environment truly is an extension of the indoor environment. It supports academics, your physical and gross motor, socialization, peer interactions, adult-child interaction. I just think it's very important to the livelihood of children. Children need to get outside. They need fresh air. And having wonderful equipment is just an added benefit.
The funding for the playgrounds came primarily from tuition. Also, the Learning Center's Pat Mueller wants to remind us that their summer camp is open for enrollment now. She explains some of the activities that are planned.
We have infants and toddlers, the really little ones. We have a group of preschoolers, and then we have our large program of school-age students. We go to field trips, we have special activities, we have photography classes, we have a Zumba instructor, we have all these different activities for kids to do during the day.
You can enroll online at the Oxford Schools website, oxfordschools.org. One of the hot topics in our district these days is career ed. Lisa Butts is our CTE coordinator, and she updates the status of our program.
Okay, well, currently in Career and Tech Ed here at Oxford High School, we have 7 state-approved programs, and we're looking in the future to add a few more programs and kind of strengthen and broaden what the Career and Tech Ed programs that we have here at the high school. Currently, we have broadcast news, engineering, programming, IT, marketing, auto, and finance. And we are currently going through the state-approved process to have our mechatronics program state-approved. We will be one of very few high schools in Oakland County to have a in-school mechatronics program.
Just what is that?
So mechatronics is somewhat of a branch of engineering. So we do have a general engineering program, but mechatronics is more of the robotic side of it, where you'll see a lot more robot building, if you will, a lot more of the electrical engineering.
Lisa reminds us that funding plays an important role too.
Currently, the state is funding our programs based off of a hot jobs list, if you will, or hot jobs for the future list. And mechatronics is actually higher than general engineering on the latest hot jobs list.
Carmen Cervantes is a Spanish teacher over at Lakeville Elementary. We paid her a visit this week to talk about teaching a language to little kids.
Little kids, a clean slate can mean a clean slate. Like, they've never heard it, they've never experienced it, they have no set stereotypes about it. It's completely a whole new world. And so you're just taking this fresh mind, and that's why I also feel my job is, it puts a little bit of the burden on me. I mean, I'm the ambassador for the Spanish language, the Spanish-speaking cultures and heritage and countries. And also I like to expand that and make them see it as, this is how you need to face everything you learn.
But that's only part of the story. She teaches them American Sign Language at the same time.
I've noticed that language teachers kind of do this a lot, or even classroom teachers. There's certain things, or mothers, there's certain signals that we use to communicate things easier or without distraction, or to just keep things flowing. Or as just a reminder, sometimes you don't have to say something. You know, a mother can give a certain look, a parent can do a certain thing, and that's communication. So when I was noticing that classroom teachers do this, mothers do this, parents do this. We communicate sometimes without using words. Well, I was incorporating that into my lessons with my vocabulary on my units. Then it kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, why am I creating these movements and gestures and signals if they already exist?
That's fascinating stuff. And we'll have more on career ed and Spanish with ASL on a future Schooling Around. That's the Oxford School News for this week. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Back with you in Oxford News this week, and yes, we do have some sports coming to you from Oxford. Oxford High School varsity baseball fell to Bay City John Glenn 5-4. It was a Wednesday night contest, 4:30 in the afternoon, April 13th to be exact. Again, the score there, Oxford lost a tough game against Bay City John Glenn. The offense came out hot, but it cooled off in the 4th inning. The offense was led by Mario Scribner, 2 and 4, 1 RBI. Devin Davenport, 1 and 3, 1 RBI. One night later, though, the Oxford Wildcats beat Oxford Christian Academy. They really annihilated them at 9-0. The score there, the offense was led by Justin Allen, 1 and 1, 2 RBIs. And also a bunt, Gage Warzeka. I hope I have your name right there, Gage. 1 and 2, 3 RBIs. And Devin Davenport also helped out that cause. Again, the score there, 9-0. Great game there. Jumping out to the softball arena, Oxford High School varsity girls softball split a doubleheader. They beat the foes Brandon High School. First game, they beat them 4-0. That was a Wednesday night contest as well. The Oxford Wildcats varsity escaped Brandon's behind Caitlin Bean's 13 strikeouts. 4-0 and an ace performance by Caitlin Bean, and they hoisted the win for Oxford. However, not able to fare well in the second part of that night as the Brandon Blackhawks beat the Oxford Wildcats. The score there, 4-2 in Game 2. Brandon defeated them, again splitting that. Despite Hannah Vachon's strong effort, 4-2, Hannah Vachon struck out 12 batters that night. Oxford still wasn't able to pick up the second game in the doubleheader. Once again, they split that one, Oxford and Brandon. And quite an amazing game, and we were there to cover it. Make sure to stay tuned to Oxford TV. We'll have that on very soon. Oxford High School girls varsity soccer beat Berkeley High School 1-0. A great game there. Karina Parker, assisted by Jade Schramm, they scored the only goal of that game. A very physical second half. Berkeley attacked Oxford's defense, trying to score. Oxford was able to win. Again, watch that game coming up on OCTV. Mother Nature cooperated this past week. The Wildcats running boys lacrosse. They have 2 games to their name. For the first time this spring, Oxford's boys lacrosse were not bothered by harsh north winds, nor sleet, nor snow, and not even the holiday of Easter. The warming spring temperatures created a perfect atmosphere for lacrosse, and they went on to win their second game, Oakland Activities Association game. They were on the road, and they defeated that strong Farmington team. What is unique about sports, and you can say that it's unique, is never expect the expected. You can expect the unimaginable. If you were to have asked the prior Masters attorney who they were pressing the green jacket for, everybody would have said Jordan Spieth. However, the Bag 9 handed Jordan a batch of bad luck. The sure thing became the greatest upset in Masters history. Jordan Spieth handed the green jacket this past weekend to an Englishman, Danny Willett, and again, Danny Willett went on Sunday to win the Masters. Again, quite an amazing contest as you watch the Back 9 at Augusta. Jordan Spieth, 23 years old. I'm sure he'll be able to bounce back, but definitely quite an amazing tournament at the end. Keeping up with the schedules, local news, Oxford Sports is right there, always at your fingertips. In fact, that's where we got most of our stories today. OxfordAthletics.org. Check it out. It's right there at your fingertips. They have schedules, the upcoming contests that have already been played, scores as well. Again, OxfordAthletics.org, one word. Urge you to check that out when you're on the web. While you're on the web, check our website out. It's always there 24/7 at your fingertips. You can easily view any of the programs on your personal device. OCCTV.org. Hit the programs tab. You can watch on your computer, iPad, or phone, wherever you choose to watch. Check it out. Weekend sports. I urge you to stay tuned on Saturday and Sunday. We broadcast our weekend sports 1:30 to 6. Again, if you missed any of the contests, they're usually up on our website at OCCTV.org. That's going to wrap it up in sports. Hope you have yourself a great week. We'll talk to you again. Good luck, everybody.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, Toyota is going all in on Ann Arbor, Michigan as a global test site for connected cars to gather data for research into autonomous driving and safety applications. In partnership with the University of Michigan's Transportation Research Institute, Toyota's goal is to equip 5,000 cars with information gathering boxes that communicate wirelessly with similar vehicles and infrastructure such as traffic signals, the company said in a statement on April 13th. Regular drivers will be recruited to have a small box installed in the rear of their vehicles along with 2 small antennas on the trunk or the roof. The drivers will make their normal rounds. Over time, the cars will gather massive amounts of data that can be used to develop the systems for self-driving cars or advanced technology features on traditional cars. Along with other research programs, Toyota and U of M are transforming the streets of Ann Arbor into the world's largest operational real-world deployment of connected vehicles and infrastructure, Toyota said. It's the second announcement by Toyota in a week about its increased presence in Ann Arbor. The Toyota Research Institute, or TRI, said April 7th that it will open an autonomous vehicle research base in conjunction with U of M. TRI already has centers with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Stanford University in Silicon Valley. And over at Ford, the 2017 Lincoln Continental will have a starting price of $45,485, including shipping, several $1,000s more than the MKS it replaces, but still less than most similarly sized luxury sedans. The Continental will be offered in 4 trim levels and with a choice of 3 V6 engines, including a 3-liter turbo that's exclusive to Lincoln and rated at 400 horsepower, according to a pricing sheet released on April 13th. Getting that engine in an all-wheel drive Continental with high-end black label materials will cost $69,105 before options, which include a 30-way perfect position seat for $1,500. The Continental, which arrives at dealerships this fall, has a base price that starts at $9,005 below the Cadillac CT6 and $5,710 less than the BMW 5 Series. And at the SAE convention, automakers say they need higher octane gasoline more in line with what is available in Europe today to meet the government's strict 2025 fuel economy and CO2 standards. During a panel discussion April 13th at the SAE World Congress on Future Engine and Transmission Technology, powertrain executives from General Motors, Ford, Fiat, Chrysler, and Honda agreed that higher octane gasoline, about 95, will be needed. Throughout most of the U.S., gasoline ranges from 87 octane for regular to 93 for premium. Octane is a measurement of how much compression fuel can handle before it detonates in an engine cylinder. High-octane fuel allows higher compression engines, and the higher the compression, the more power an engine can produce. A high-compression engine runs more efficiently, produces more power, and less CO2 because the fuel burns more predictably. Many of today's downsized turbocharged engines are running compression ratios of between 10:1 to 12:1. Europe, which uses the RON method for measuring octane, rates premium gasoline at 100 octane, while that same blend of gasoline in the United States and Canada, rated on the AKI, that is, or anti-knock index, would be rated at 95. The petroleum industry has been reluctant to raise octane because of the added cost for consumers. Premium 93 octane fuel today is often priced 50 cents or more higher than regular. Dan Nicholson, Vice President of General Motors Propulsion Systems, says he has carved out time in his schedule to regularly lobby governments and the petroleum industry to raise octane. Tony Ockelford, Director of Product and Strategy for Ford's powertrain operations, outlined 2 ways to elevate the octane debate. The auto industry needs to educate drivers on the benefits of higher octane and how it enables cleaner and more powerful and efficient engines, and continue collaborating. 100 RON has been on the table for a long time, Ockelford said. The only way we will ever get there is to continue to push and work in a collaborative way. Bob Lee, head of Fiat Chrysler's powertrain and electric propulsion efforts, has been lobbying for higher octane at industry conferences for years. We need to find a new equilibrium, he said. Whether it's 98 or 100 octane, we need something at that level. In the last 6 years, automakers have dramatically increased the amount of horsepower per liter developed by engines by raising compression, installing turbochargers, and adding direct fuel injections. But without higher octane fuel, it will be difficult to further boost power output. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.